Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Road to an Effective Classroom Environment. I am your host, Dr. Lashawnte, also known as the Classy Sassy Consultant, and we will continue our conversation about chronic absenteeism. Our first episode was looking more at some general information, gave you some statistics that came from attendanceworks.org as well as the Wallace Foundation. And in our second episode, we talked directly to the parents because we know that our parents are at the forefront and they are those individuals who are responsible for making sure that their students attend school on a regular basis. And so tonight we are going to look at part 3 of Attend to Win. This series has been called Attend to Win, and we are going to look at the barriers to chronic absenteeism. This episode will cite and address those barriers. And again, the information is coming from attendanceworks.org. Before we get started, just want to give a shout out to all of the dads out there. Happy Father's Day in advance. It is Father's Day weekend, so happy Father's Day. And I hope that you enjoy your time. You have been enjoying your weekend, whether that's grilling out, spending time with your children, spending time with your family. Just enjoy. Our dads, they play an important roles in our lives. And so we want to honor you today. Also, we have where today is the birthday of the U.S. Army. And I wanted to shout out that particular branch because it is the Army's birthday. And also, I have so many family members that have been stationed, as well as my dad. He was in the Army. Uncles on both sides of the family, and even with the younger generation, males and females, as far as extended family members who have served. So thank you for your service. And again, happy birthday to the Army. And we are going to jump into our conversation as it continues about chronic absenteeism. And just to also recap the Wallace Foundation, its mission is to help all communities build a more vibrant and just future by fostering advances in the arts, education, leadership, and youth development. So just a reminder about who the Wallace Foundation, who they are. So I trust everyone has had an enjoyable week, and I'm definitely looking forward to some professional development for myself this coming week as I travel and attend a conference. And so want to make sure that, I keep myself still well-tuned, and as I've always have said since I've gotten into leadership and just education in general, even as a classroom teacher, that I am a lifelong learner. So I'm looking to not only attend the conference, but will also be a co-presenter. And so looking forward to continuing my professional development. So let's take a look at what some of these barriers are to why students are chronically absent. And the first one is I would consider it probably one of the main reasons, overall, probably the higher percentage as to why we have students out. This barrier deals with chronic and acute illness. And we've touched on this in that first episode and talked about how we do have where students, they go out for extended periods of time, whether it's due to surgeries because of injuries from sports or incidents outside of school, which may have them out for weeks and months at a time, if at all coming back for that coming school year. We have where students may have diagnoses that have them under the watch of a doctor, and they have to take medication that has them sleeping a lot of times, or they may not fully be able to focus. And so This is one I feel like is I see a lot, and what I've seen a lot of in the past 28 years of me being in education is that this tends to be one of the top reasons, if not the top, one of the top three reasons as to why our students are out, and this is one of those, and it's a barrier when it comes down to attending. The next one would be family responsibilities and home situations. So this could encompass many things. We have students who, back in my day, if you went home and you whenever you got home from school, you got home, your mom, your dad said to go home, lock the door, and don't let anyone in unless it's me, ma, or granddad, or a relative who is coming to check on you. We were latchkey kids. We went to the house. We had the key around our neck, key in the pocket. We still have children today that are latchkey. They go home and they are taking care of themselves because they have where their parents may be working jobs that require them to not be home at that particular time, and may not have relatives around them or people that they trust to watch over them. But the children may be old enough to stay home. And so with that, if there are siblings involved, the older one tends to be the one taking care of the siblings or having to stay out of school in order to take care of a sibling who is sick. So family responsibilities is definitely a barrier when it comes to students as to why they're not attending school. And those are just a few examples. Trauma. Our students, just as we as adults, we have trauma in our lives, and sometimes it requires us to be out of work. Our students, they also go through trauma. And so we have to think about that and helping them to address those issues of trauma if the school is able to play a role in that. There are times in which parents are very private about certain topics and certain incidents that are going on in their family. So depending on how much the family is willing to allow school officials in and to know what's going on, schools can help with that trauma and to get a better understanding as to why the student is out due to this incident. Also, another barrier would be poor transportation. And I see this a lot in just some of the school settings that I have been a part of, in which if a child has missed the bus, he or she may not have a parent that has a working vehicle, if a vehicle at all, in order to transport the child to school if he or she has missed the bus. And just a little quick story about myself. As a child, I rode the bus, and growing up in a single parent home for most of my childhood, the first 7 years, my mom and dad were together. But after that, it was, I was raised in a single parent home with my sister and my brother. And so I loved school, loved school, cried if I missed school. And so if I did miss the bus, let's say I got up late or the bus came early, because that also was sometimes the case, then my mom would put me in a taxi cab and I would go to school. I see students that are still using taxi cab services if they are considered homeless under McKinney-Vento. And so transportation can be something that is a barrier for our students in getting to school. If they miss the bus, it's a barrier. If the child gets on the bus, the child is coming to school. But just having a mode of transportation for if the child cannot or has not gotten on the bus due to missing it, oversleeping, so forth, or if a child is out of the attendance zone. If you are wanting your child to attend and you are approved to have your child to attend a school that's not in your attendance zone, it is up to you to have transportation in many cases, if not in all of our 50 states. But please make sure that you check with your states on that bit of information. But if you attend school out of your zone, there may not always be someone, transportation that's set up in place for your child to attend. So that's another barrier. Another barrier would be housing and food insecurity. And some children don't attend school because they know that they are homeless. They are living in a 2-bedroom apartment and there are 7 or 10 people that are living in that apartment, or they're moving from place to place, from shelter to shelter. And if they're moving within that family unit, if they're moving through their immediate family and extended family, then they are considered our hidden homeless. We may not always know that they are homeless. They will choose one address to have all the mail to go to that address. And our children, when they know that they're in a situation where they're not like other students, then they tend to stay out, or they just don't have the way to get there because they're moving from one place to the next, and it may be out of that attendance zone, which goes back to poor transportation. Another barrier would be lack of access to needed services. And services could be medical services, just having health insurance, being able to go to the doctor, being able to go to the dentist, being able to get glasses, getting your hearing checked, just being able to have services. And if you are the hidden homeless, or if you just don't have that stationary address, then it may be an issue in you getting those provided services that you need. And so if you're sick, that goes back to the first barrier. If you're sick, you're not able to make it into school. So a lot of the barriers, they do tie in with each other. Another barrier could be the system, meaning the government. The government may be involved in why your student is out. And this is not to place blame, but it's just to identify that if the system is involved, you may have where a child is under court order to attend school. And if these other barriers that we have talked about have not been addressed in some way, shape, or form, and the student is still missing, then the student may find himself or herself in a situation where they're attending school where they will definitely go every day because they're under supervision. So sometimes we may see that even though there are laws in place that say you must come to school each day, there are some students that still may not come. And even if their parents are doing everything possible to make sure that student goes, and things happen. And so if that student does not come, that's when you may have where the government is involved, the court systems are involved, and some students, they go on the run. If they know that they're having to go to family court, and they may have to be at a boot camp where they're definitely going to be getting that education because someone's going to be there in their face, you may have kickback by that individual. And sometimes students, they take off or they may go to other family members. And so this is one of those situations that can actually evolve into something a lot more deeper. So we're going to keep it at the baseline for right now, because we can take this topic to a whole nother level. And maybe in another episode, we'll touch bases on that. Let's just say, and then we're just going to finish off with one other barrier: community violence. Now, how does community violence play a role in students not coming to school? Well, it's not safe. If the student does not feel safe, if there is violence that's taking place, whether it's in their actual community where they live, or whether it's taking place near the schools, and parents just don't feel comfortable sending the students, then students are not going to go. They're not going to show up. And so community violence, that goes back to talking about all the individuals that come together to help to make sure that students do attend school. That goes back to looking at, what are we as a community doing? I'm going to jump into talking about the police and the government, but as a community, at some point in time, we have to stand up and say, we don't like what's going on, and we have to be able to take back our communities, and we have to be able to tell those who are trying to tear it down, convincing them that this is not what you want to do. You don't want to bring down the place that you live. You want to see the kids to go to school. Sometimes it takes being positive, but yet being assertive about what you need in your community, and then making sure that you go to get backup from those who are in position. We vote people into office. We vote politicians into office, and they should be looking at what communities need the most help and providing that support. Help does not always mean bringing in the police in droves and armed forces, and you're looking for something. You're looking for someone doing something wrong. Sometimes it means bringing those folks in a positive way and building the confidence back up in them so that they will be willing to say, hey, this is what's going on down the street, or this is what's going on in apartment 5B, and saying enough is enough. So we've got to take our communities back, because our children are the ones who are suffering. They are the ones that are not making it to school because it is not safe to get to school. So that's one of the last barriers we're going to talk about and look at today. I did wanted to make sure that I came back for these next few episodes so we can finish out this conversation about chronic absenteeism. And just as a reminder, we in the last episode, we talked about 4 main reasons as to why students are chronically absent. Looking at those root causes. And so we have 4 main categories. In that last episode, we talked about misconceptions about the impact of absences. And now this episode, we have talked about the barriers to attendance. And I hope that you have gotten some information that you can take with you and that you can marinate on. Again, we know this is the summer months right now, and depending on what state you're in, you're transitioning, or even what country you're transitioning into, either going back to school in a few weeks, or may be another month and a half before you're going back. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all of you that are outside of the United States. Thank you for being my biggest fan base, and thank you for listening to the podcast. I appreciate you so much. Thank you to my American citizens as well. Shout out to you all too. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I wanted to stop at that last barrier, community violence, because right now this is something that would definitely go into a whole nother spectrum of conversations. And I do want to talk about the community violence piece. And hopefully in the near future, I will have some guests that will be on that can talk about this a little bit more and talk about some things that they're doing in their communities. And maybe I'll make this one into a series as well, a series of podcasts. But this has been The Road to an Effective Classroom Environment. This is Attend to Win Part 3, Barriers to Chronic Absenteeism. And I have been your host, Dr. Lashawnte, also known as the Classy Sassy Consultants. Thank you once again for listening. And until next time, have a good one.